Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to post a reply to the thread put up, thread number 2, by Sid from Denmark. In her thread posting she said that she'd been to New Zealand, and I'm going to reply to the thread entirely with New Zealand music, looking at my New Zealand music collection. So the first question was, what's a record that gives you goosebumps when you listen to it? And I think there's two ways of answering that. You can get goosebumps from something which is chilling and dark, but you can also get goosebumps from something that's thrilling and exciting, like those opening chords of the Sex Pistols' God Save the Queen. Every time I hear that, it hears my arms stand on end. And this is a New Zealand band that do that for me as well. They're the 3Ds. They came about in Dunedin in the early 90s, and I've got 2 EPs of theirs here that really give me goosebumps, give me thrills. The first EP from 1990 is Fishtails. The second EP from 1991, the one we're listening to now, Swarthy Songs for Swabs. And I had the privilege of seeing this band play just about every weekend. They were stunning, and I thought even then that I was seeing one of the very best bands in the world, with a great combination of pop melodies and guitar noise. Absolutely thrilling. The next question, what's your current music obsession? I have to say it's New Zealand music on vinyl. There's no pressing plant in New Zealand, so lots of bands don't release things on vinyl. When they do, it's something really special, and partly as a way of limiting the spending on records, I keep to that New Zealand music genre, and that's definitely my obsession at the moment. The third question was about thrift store or flea market finds, and I've got a couple which I picked up at our local market here on the island. And in fact, 2 of these I picked up from the same stall at the market, and I was pretty pleased to tell you. So I was down there one Saturday morning going through a box of records, not hoping for much, and I came across this. This is the Gordon's Future Shock EP. It has 3 songs: Future Shock, Adults and Children, and Machine Song. It's on Flying Nun. It's not the original release that came out in 1980. This was a reissue that came out, I think, about 1987. I'm not sure on that. But still very rare, very hard to pick up, although the songs are available on CD. This is kind of very dark, early post-punk, very influential. The first time I heard Sonic Youth, they dedicated their set to the Gordons. And this was 50 cents, so I was really pleased with that. And then later on in the same box of records I came across this, Toy Love. For a long time this was a holy grail amongst New Zealand record collectors. Toy Love was a band that featured Chris Knox before he went on to the Tall Dwarfs. He'd long run down the album, he didn't like the production on it. The masters were lost, and in fact the masters were found and it only came out on CD a couple of years ago. So it's been very hard to get ever since. The time it was released. At the time I found it wasn't out on CD, so it was a real find, but even now, the other day I saw a copy of this in a record store in Auckland for $69, even though the CD is available now. I've actually managed to pick up 2 copies of this somewhere along the line, and I didn't pay much for either of them. The copy that I picked up at the market that day, 50 cents, so I was absolutely thrilled with that. The next question was to recommend a record that others should hear, and this was quite hard because a lot of the New Zealand material that I really like would be almost impossible to get. It's printed in such limited runs, and I wanted to recommend something you might actually have a chance to pick up. And so I've picked this. I've shown it in an earlier video, Humphreys and Keane, The Overflow. Humphreys and Keane were involved in the Able Tasmans. This is a record they put out a couple of years ago. It got a release on vinyl last year, and it's fantastic. Great lush pop album with strings, orchestration, beautiful songs. I'd really recommend this to anyone who likes really well-crafted, well-structured pop music, beautiful singing, beautiful playing, and you may be able to pick that up. There's still vinyl copies of that floating around if you do a search online. It's Humphreys and Keane, The Overflow. That's my recommendation to you. On to the next question, which was a record in your collection which you're the most proud of. So this was quite hard, I found. I've picked out a couple actually. So this is Flesh, an EP by Children's Hour. It came out in Flying Nun. It's never been re-released. It's been out of print for many, many years. It took me a long time to track a copy down, and I had to pay a bit for it. It's got a bit of wear on the sleeve, but I'm really pleased with this, and it's really nice to have some of that early Flying Nun material in my collection in original form. I've also got a couple of other things here that I'm proud of. This is the Flakeheads. It's a single called Anesthetics in My Brain, backed with The Hanging Judge. This was a Geraldine pressing on clear vinyl. I think there were 50 copies of this, and I once saw this band play, and I asked if they would play this song, and they were stunned because it was the first time they'd met anyone outside of their circle of friends and acquaintances who had actually bought the record. Although funnily enough, this record did receive a great review in the NME. In 1997 it was picked as Single of the Week by the lead singer from Kula Shaker. Another I'm proud of for a different reason, and this is because I used to do a New Zealand music podcast, and one of the issues I did on that podcast was on New Zealand songs named after places and locations. It's kind of part of a specialist area on my collection, I suppose, and I featured this song. It's by Peter Cape, and it's Te Mata Whakatangihanga Ko Tamatea Pokai Whenua Ki Tanatahu, which is the longest place name in New Zealand. And I was proud of that because I managed to get the name out in the podcast. The last question was to ask a question or give advice, and the question I want to ask really is about shipping costs. Buying records in New Zealand, often we have to bring them in from overseas, and while the cost of the vinyl might not be too much, the cost of the shipping can be exorbitant. So it would be good to know of places that have a good selection and are able to keep the shipping costs down a bit. So that's my response to Sid's thread. I hope you enjoy it, and I look forward to other people's responses.